Rev up your engines! All right, here we have a 2016 Ford Focus. I'm going to tell you the truth about them. This particular one being a 2016, it's covered under their warranty that they either have to fix the transmission correctly or they have to buy back the car. And Ford's claim they bought back thousands of the cars at an average of $17,000 a car, which I find to be total nonsense because every customer I had that got offered a buyback, they'd offer them $2 grand, $2,500. So I wouldn't believe Ford's figures. But here's the history of the car, and it might surprise you. They're not as bad as some people think. Now, the Focus was designed as a world car. They actually build it all over the world. Germany, United States, Taiwan, you name it, all kinds of places. It was designed by basically the Germans and the British were behind the design. It's a rather European design. Everybody that knows anything about cars knows that Ford had to recall them and either fix the automatic transmissions or buy the car back. One of the reasons this occurred isn't really that they were built wrong. It's that they were fixed wrong. This does have the dual automatic transmission that has 2 clutches inside it, but you don't have a clutch pedal. The computer shifts it. Now, he had problems with this. He bought it used and the transmission acted up. So he took it to the dealer. Then they reprogrammed it. But, of course, that didn't fix the problem. So he took it back and they reprogrammed it again, but then he did research and found out they either got to fix the tranny or they got to buy the car back. It is a dual clutch system. They put actual new clutches in the transmission and they reprogrammed the car. And since then, it's run perfectly fine. Here is the rub of these dual clutch transmissions in this Ford. It's an automatic transmission, but it has 2 clutches and no clutch pedal. The computer operates the clutches electrically and hydraulically. So instead of you stopping on a clutch with your foot, the computer's doing that so you can engage it from gear to gear. The automatic transmission does it by itself. Anybody who's mechanical can pull the tranny off, put in new clutches and put it back in. But it won't work right because it has to be reprogrammed by various states with a fancy Ford computer to reset it so it shifts correctly. If you just took it apart, put in new clutches and put it together, it would shift like crap because it's got to be reset. The computer system has to be reset. If it isn't reset and reprogrammed, it won't shift right. That's why originally, of course, the dealers want to save money. 2 times they said, oh, we just need to reprogram it. Well, reprogramming is perfectly fine when you put new clutches in and then reprogram it. You have to do that. But if the clutches themselves are physically worn, you can reprogram until the cows come home and it's not going to work right because the clutch is physically worn out and there's 2 of them. And that, as far as I'm concerned, was the main problem with these cars, was that idiots were working on the car and even at the dealerships, they try to tell people, oh, well, we'll just reprogram it, that'll fix it, because they just want to push buttons. They don't have to pull the tranny off, big job, costs a lot of money, right? They kind of added to the problems by not saying, okay, yeah, the clutch is worn out. Instead of, if it was still under warranty, they'd say, oh, it just needs reprogramming. No, it didn't. And everybody thinks, well, they reprogrammed, it didn't work right, it's junk. And then eventually they settled the deal where they either got to fix these things for free and put new clutches and reprogram them, or they got to buy the car back. And as per usual, Ford lowballed people. I've had customers with them, and they'd offer them $2 grand, $2,500 for the car. Ford claimed they paid $17,700 on average for the ones they bought back, and they supposedly bought back thousands of them, but I wouldn't believe their figures on what they offered because every person I saw, they offered them peanuts for the car. I'll tell you one thing that kind of amazes me. I wonder, what happens to the ones they buy back? They never tell anybody. Like, do they ship them to Europe or Poland or someplace or South America and then unload it to those people after they bought them back? They never tell you what they do when they buy them back. But regardless, this one now runs like a charm, because they did replace it. They did reprogram it right, and you get over 35 miles a gallon on this thing driving around. The dual clutch transmissions can get phenomenal gas mileage because the computers can shift it for economy, for power, whatever you want to set it up for, and get really good gas mileage because of their design. They have many speeds, and they can shift for gas mileage if you have it on economy, or if you have it for speed, they'll shift a little bit later and have more pickup. Now, as we look under the hood, 93,000 miles on it. Does it burn oil? No. One of the reasons that it also gets good gas mileage, it isn't just the transmission. As you can see here, there's the high pressure fuel pump. This is a gasoline direct injection engine. The GDI system sprays gas directly into the engine. It's highly efficient. That's how you can get good gas mileage. Now, he did have to replace the fuel pump. You can see He's replaced his pump. It's a high pressure pump. But he did it himself and it only cost him about $100. Now, check it out. Fuel pump up here, easy to get to for $100. Who cares? Now, originally, you'd have to pay a whole bunch more money because you have to buy it at the dealer and yada yada. They mark them up and everything. But since these are world cars, they're made all over the place. There's parts available all over the place. And there's a lot of aftermarket parts that work fine. Now, of course, lots of places, especially Europe, they drive standard transmission cars, so they don't even care about a dual clutch. They got a regular one they drive themselves. But here in the United States, everybody drives automatic. So it had to make one that have an automatic. Phenomenal gas mileage, they got decent pickup too. It's just that they left a horrible taste in people's mouths when the trannies broke. Ford would just say, oh, too bad, it's out of warranty. But then after the class action suit and everything, Ford settled, so they either fix them for free or buy the car back. A lot of it was just, as I said, worn out clutches. I had a customer in Houston and his went out. But it had 178,000 miles on it, and the clutches just wore out, you know? If you got a standard transmission car yourself, not one of these dual clutch automatics, but an actual standard with a clutch and a gear shift knob, you're rarely gonna go that far on a clutch. It's gonna wear out. The computer's better than people, so it lasted 170. A lot of people only get 70 out of a clutch, and they gotta replace it. The engine itself isn't particularly tiny, as you can see here. 2-liter, inline 4-cylinder engine. It's not a tiny engine. They tend to over-rev the engines, and then they burn the clutches out. The problem was people were driving them too hard, and people didn't fix them right. This one's going good. We'll take it for a spin. Now, as the owner said, realize these are low cars. So when you go over big bumps like this, you go really slow because you don't want to scrape anything. Now, once you get down the road, it is a European small car. So don't expect it to ride like it's a giant Cadillac. It handles fine, it's fun to drive, but you're gonna feel the bumps, you know? I gotta say truthfully, it really isn't any rougher than my Toyota Matrix, which also has a sort of rough ride and is also fun to drive around in, but this thing's a lot faster than the Matrix. Now let's see how it takes off. We'll step on it. Not a race car, but it's smooth, and you can see that transmission shifted gears. You couldn't even tell it shifted gear. These are fun things to drive. The owner gave this to his son to drive, and he had to get his key and steal the car back because the son was having too much fun driving it and wouldn't give it back to him. So he had to use a spare key and get it back. For the tiny little engine, tiny little car, check it out. This thing doesn't shake at all. It's smooth as can be, even though it's got 93,000 miles on it. You give it gas, it is fun. It's got plenty of zip to it. And that transmission is smooth. The guys at Ford did install the clutches correctly and reprogrammed it correctly. So what have we learned? These things are fun cars to drive if you have the clutches replaced in the automatic transmission correctly. They can be excellent vehicles. Now, this isn't a car that some hillbilly can buy and say, oh, I'll put the clutches in. He can't do it. He won't have the computer in order to reset the thing. Now, if he wanted to go far enough, he could do the work himself. It would still drive. He could drive it to a dealer and have them reprogram it, but they'd always frown on that. But the advantage is Ford either has to fix these things or buy them back. So if you can get one dirt cheap, take it to Ford. They're either gonna have to fix the transmission free or buy the car back from you. And they might pay you more than what you pay. If you bought it for 500 bucks, maybe you can make money that way. Or if they fix the transmission, you could have a nice one like this that runs perfectly fine and it's gonna last for quite some time. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Kim says, I got 2013 Avalon, 123,000 miles. It hums when I'm driving. I took it to the dealer and my tires are worn. They said, you need new tires, but you also need new struts, and they want thousands of dollars. Help. One, I don't trust guys at dealerships because they're just there to make money. I know guys who have been service managers at them and they get a certain percentage profit of whatever they sell, so they want to sell you the kitchen sink. I would say, get a second opinion, right? Don't get tires yet. Yours are worn. Go to a good front-end alignment shop. That's all they do. They know their stuff and say, here. They might say, yes, you need struts. If your tires are badly cupped all around, it often means that your struts are worn. But it could be you didn't have enough air in them. It could be your alignment's off a little. Don't always start with the most expensive part. Of course, the dealer always wants to sell you the most expensive part. Everybody knows that. But get an analysis. Maybe you do need front struts, you know. But I'm sure at the price you said, thousands, they want to sell you front and back struts. And rarely do they all wear out the same. Front ones generally wear out a lot faster than the back ones. So get a second opinion. And if you're worried about the price, hey, watch my videos. I show you how you can change struts. O'Reilly's, they loan you the tools free. Watch my videos. You can do it yourself if you wanted. Save yourself thousands of dollars. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.